All right, we're gonna start. And I see, because we have new people, we'll go around the room again so everyone can introduce themselves. My name is Levi Levertup. I was born and bred here in Phoenix. But I have been, my studies have taken me to different parts of the world, if I could say that, from Phoenix to Brooklyn, Argentina.
Phoenix to Brooklyn.
To Argentina to Toronto, then back to Brooklyn. And here I am today, back in Phoenix. So I say we go this
In
way.
upstate New York.
I'm Herb
That's-
Spiewak. I belong to this young lady.
The
And,
other way around.
or she belong, no, I belong to her. No, please, don't start an argument. And we're from Chicago area and we bought a home here in Scottsdale and we go back and forth.
And I'm Ethel Schmall, but we are married. I live where he lives.
I don't know if I signed the papers.
I'm Judy Zuckman. I live in Scottsdale, Arizona, originally Chicago.
Lou, you're up.
Lou Rich, Scottsdale, been here now 20 years, from Omaha.
Welcome.
Yes, this time I came in person, see.
That's right.
Otherwise, I zoom in a lot.
Our associate rabbi became the head rabbi at the large Reform synagogue. They built a new building in Omaha on a campus with a
With the
A mosque.
synagogue, what I'm looking for, a mosque.
I said mosque.
Yeah. And there's gonna be a third one, but I'm not sure. I
Sure.
never got, and then there was
Oh,
gonna
there
be
is
a
a church.
tri-faith building, but that didn't get done.
All right. Moving on.
I am Sharon Klessner. I'm here from, let's see, Bronx, New Jersey, Teaneck and Princeton. And I moved here 15 years ago to Old Town, Mariposa, near Chaparral. And then 2 years ago, we came to Pueblo Norte, my husband and I. Here we are.
All right. The Zangers.
I'm Cynthia Danger. I also from the Bronx originally. I lived in New York most of my life. And we now live permanently on Long Island, Great Neck, Long Island. But we come out here because my youngest daughter and four of my grandchildren are here. So we're enjoying there in Paradise Valley.
They're in paradise.
Ditto, many
Ditto.
years I am ditto. I belong to them, just copying.
Very good, you're learning.
I'm learning. but-
Yeah, you're learning.
Maybe-
Another 20 years, you'll be great.
Okay,
Okay.
me too. She told me.
Alibi.
Okay.
Are you from Israel originally? I mean,
Well, yeah, I spent 25 years in Israel. Many years ago.
We are Wayne and Felice Ventures. I was born and raised in San Francisco, lived in the San Francisco Bay Area until I moved here 2 years ago. She's got a
Don't tell them.
much longer story. I'm just saying, she's got a much longer story. I will let you tell.
No, I'm not gonna tell a long story. My name is Felice Zentius, and I'm from New York, Lawrence, Long Island, but lived most of my life with Wayne in San Francisco Bay Area. We were very active there, both politically and with the temple and everything in San Francisco. And we moved here because our daughter is here. So, Scottsdale is a bit of a shock.
Definitely from San Francisco,
But
right?
I'm doing the best I can, and so we belong to a congregation that Israel, and we enjoy that, and legal women voters, I enjoy that. Just keeping busy, doing a lot of things.
Nice.
We're Rick Mandy. We came here in October from Philadelphia area. We are enjoying our retirement here.
Yeah, we are.
And we've got one, we skipped you because you came in afterwards. You get to introduce yourself.
Oh,
My name is Alan Abram. I'm from Oklahoma City. I guess I spend the winters in here, and then I try and spend the summers in Minneapolis. And so I guess I'm just a snowbird. And
We like snowbirds. We do like snowbirds.
oh yes, well, at any rate, I was active in the temple in Oklahoma City. I was president for a while, for 2 years, and that's.
Oh, welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome. So I always start off this way. That I want to make sure that you know that today's discussion can go whichever way you would like, in the sense that I want it to be an opportunity for you to ask questions. I know that Purim is next week, so we can definitely do some of the classic questions on the holiday of Purim, including, but not limited to, oh, wait a second. But including but not limited to every detail of Purim. So it's really up to you, but I always do like that the questions come from participants, because this way it's something of interest to you. I know that we were supposed to get a question from last time, so we can start with that, and then we can move along to wherever the discussion goes.
Well, last time we were talking about anti-Semitism, and the question got arise, which we didn't finish discussing. If it's considered by a lot of people that the Jewish people are the chosen people. And is that what is causing some of the anti-Semitism? And if so, what can we as individuals do about that?
And by the way, I would love to hear people's input. I'm gonna repeat the question just to make sure we understood it. So there is the Torah says that the Jewish people are the chosen people. Now, is that a concern in the sense that it causes anti-Semitism? If it does, then what is the solution for that? Besides for that, some people erase it from books, which I see.
Chosen to do what?
So that's
What
part
are
of
we
the,
chosen for?
right, so this is part of the question. So,
Part of the question.
so I guess, do you have an answer for this for yourself, like kind of something that you thought about, or?
Well, you know, as far as myself, I don't, when I'm talking to somebody, we don't generally bring up religion, but if it does come up, we talk as human beings. And if you talk as human beings, the barriers go away. And I think that's, if you start communicating with people.
Unfortunately, that's not the solution. because-
That's not a solution,
Because
no. But
first,
it's,
people don't talk as human beings most of the time.
yeah, but individually,
Yeah.
that's all
But
I,
I think really to come back to, that still avoids the question,
yeah.
meaning that doesn't answer the question that's asked.
It doesn't.
It just means we move beyond it.
Yeah, we can move beyond it, but we can discuss it. I had a very animate discussion a couple of days ago with somebody about the same topic. And the gentleman happened to be Jewish, so we were just discussing it. But if you're talking with somebody, I met a Palestinian a long time ago, and we had a discussion, and he spoke his views and I spoke my views, but we did it just to understand each other and what perspective you're coming from. Did we resolve anything? Absolutely not. And I don't have an answer as to how to resolve it, and that's why I'm bringing it up.
I know one thing, eliminating the Jews or converting into won't work. It hasn't worked for
Right.
2,000 years. You're looking for to solve a question which people have worked on for 2,000 years. They're going to work another 2,000 years. I don't think there'll be a solution, really. It's probably ingrained in some people that you ought to hate. You could blame the Christian Pope and so forth, but that's a temporary solution. It's not even a solution. You can blame somebody, yeah, because he encouraged it. in 1,000, whatever.
So you're saying kind of, you don't deal with the question. It is what it is.
No, I mean, you don't have much of a choice, and converting yourself and saying, well, I'm not gonna be a Jew, isn't gonna work either.
Right,
Because
right.
We saw Hitler was after somebody was.
Because to them, you're always a Jew.
Jewish or something.
Right.
So, we gotta live the way we live, period, that's it.
Right.
I think this is taught in various religions around the world. The first time I came across overt anti-Semitism was a woman, she was from Turkey, a Christian, and she had been taught that Jews were terrible people, they were stupid, they were alone, they were dirty, she had a whole long list, but she hadn't come across any Jews before she met me
Right,
anyway. But this is what she had been taught, and somehow when the Pope gets up and says something, that makes a difference. Because the Catholic Church in this country also taught that for many years. My 5-year-old friend who went to Catholic school told me she couldn't play with me anymore because I killed Christ. They don't teach that anymore, but supposedly.
Right.
But that, I think that's one of the sources of where this all comes from.
All right. I want to stick to this detail though, because I saw that. Was it Judy? You had something to add to this? I know you're going to add in a second, or Lou.
I had a Persian friend, and we got on the subject. We were friends for a couple of years, 2-3 years, and then one day the subject was the treatment of the Palestinians in Israel, and I said, well, to a great extent, they are better off, but not all of them. And that was the last discussion we ever had. He had his view,
Right.
that's the way it has to be, and yeah.
I think, anyone else want to add to this? I know Ethel does. You
Well,
said chosen for what, which is a powerful line, by the way. That's loaded. That's where I want to head in that direction.
well, we also talked last time about who is a Jew. Remember, we had the whole discussion. We were chosen because we were willing to do the mitzvot.
Okay, so I'm gonna.
So we were chosen to have a lot of responsibility, not
Right,
faith.
so I want to go on that direction. Anyone else want to add something? And of course, after I add, you're welcome to chime in again.
I just want to add.
Yeah.
I've been working on a bar mitzvah speech from my grandkids, which is Joseph, favorite. Well, Joseph was a favorite, the Jews are favorite to God, and in both cases, they have responsibility with being a favorite. That's part of the speech. If you come to the bar mitzvah, you'll hear
When
that.
is it? I'll see if I can make it. You want to add something?
My stomach turns every time a non-Jewish person says to me, oh, you're from the chosen people. And the word chosen.
You're saying it makes you uncomfortable.
Makes me very uncomfortable. And I tell them that it makes me uncomfortable because we are not chosen for anything except to carry the word of the Torah. And as the conversation continues, and it usually does, I remind them that Jesus was a Jew. He was born and died a Jew. And he was a teacher, and he was teaching the Torah. And that usually stops things. But anyway, I've had a lot of philosophical, religious discussions with Christian people, and I have a lot of friends who are Christian, and we have certain people I can talk to. I only open the conversation unless they start it. And if something makes me uncomfortable, I tell them how uncomfortable it is. Many years ago, when I moved from the Bronx to Cliffside Park, New Jersey, we were very, very much in the minority. And I said to my very good Italian friend at the time, we were in 7th grade, And we were walking home from school and she said to me, Sharon, how come you're so nice? And I went home and I told my mother what she said, and I took it as a compliment at that time. I had no religious education. And my mother got very upset over it, and she started to talk to me about
She re-educated you.
it.
There's a lot of really good points brought up just now, but first of all, I do want to start off, something that I've always read is that the most people uncomfortable with that line are actually Jews. That I found. In other words, when you look at other religions who mention that they're not uncomfortable with it. They take it, I don't know, meaning each one will take it to their own meaning. But I think Jews are more uncomfortable with it. I think it's a line in Fiddler on the Roof, about being chosen, but more for like all of the sorrow that we have, not for all the good.
Amen.
She's somebody else.
Yeah, that's the line. So I always think about that, but one of the things I've read recently in the last couple of years, I don't have the book that I usually come in with, which is the Jewish Book of Why. Not the Book of Why, but it was a course that I taught and it played on that book. So it's not from the book, but it's a textbook that was from a class. And they actually rephrase it to exactly what Ethel says, chosen for what? In other words, are we meant to take it as something to beat our chests on, like I'm the chosen? It's not what it's meant. The meaning is that we have more responsibilities, which is to be a light unto others, which means that we have to live up to that, which is not, but I'm not even getting into that, but in the sense of being a role model for the nations is kind of the way it looks. And that's not easy. And it's not something we always want to do. It's like, who wants this extra responsibility? So I want to use that word. It just gives us more responsibilities. But I also understand why people are uncomfortable with it. I mean, using the word chosen in today's day and age, it just makes you an elitist and special and already a cause for concern of how others will look at you. But I do feel that it's more of a Jewish question than others who question Jews about it. That's what I've found. And by the way, I also kind of get uncomfortable when someone tells it to me, even though they mean so well. Like I remember we had a company come to the synagogue to do our fire, just the annual testing. And the guy at the end tells me, he's like, oh, I love you guys. You're the chosen people. And I'm like, I don't know what that means from him. I mean, so I understand where that is, but for me, it doesn't mean that we're better than anyone. In fact, I mean, most of us know that the Jewish perspective on life is that you don't have to be Jewish to be good in the eyes of God. So clearly we don't look at it as a be us or you're not good. So you have to keep that in mind. It might mean that you have to re-educate yourself or re-educate others when that comes up in a conversation, but it's never been something that kind of hits my radar in the sense of conversations or someone who's not liking me because of, I haven't felt that, but that could be just me. It's very subjective. Maybe I'm missing the cues, right? Maybe I'm just a little bit.
They didn't ask you where your tail was?
Actually, yesterday I was at a retirement community. I went around the room and I asked if anyone in the room had experienced anti-Semitism personally. We're talking about one of the people in the room was 100. So we're not talking about young people. Only one person in that room said yes and was in the army.
You're
It wasn't
kidding.
like from the,
Only one person?
only one person.
That's amazing.
So I thought that was pretty amazing too. But again, you don't believe it, huh? Come with me next time.
Well,
But I believe it. And even in the army, it's a jerk. It's not somebody it's a power trip more than anything else. But I do want to share some of the things that you brought up, though. All of this is connected to Purim, by the way, so I'm going to connect it in a minute. Purim is definitely about anti-Semitism and how it plays out. But before that, you had mentioned, and both of you mentioned, Jews and Arabs. There is a book, I might have quoted it here before. It's called Anatomy of Peace. And it's a book that was written by an Israeli author and an Arab Palestinian together. It's actually, if I understand correctly, it's based on a rehabilitation center for youth in Arizona. But again, it's just an interesting partnership right there, right off the bat. And their entire premise is your heart at war or is your heart at peace? That's the entire book. It's about interpersonal relationships. I love the book, so that's why I quote it. It's called Anatomy of Peace. And really, that's the fascinating foundation of our relationship. So I look at you as that I'm at war with you and therefore you're an object I have to just bulldoze and get through? Or is my heart at peace and therefore the goal to achieve it is through peace, through realizing you're a person and understanding your opposition to something instead of just not caring about it and talking it as human beings. So there is that to it. So when we bring that into the story of Purim, I always find this very fascinating. So just a quick synopsis of the story of the Megillah is that we have the Jewish people are exiled from Israel. It's over 50 years since they've been sent out of Jerusalem. Ahasuerus is the king of the Persian Empire, which rules over the entire world. He is celebrating, this is a very important fact for the story of the Megillah, which we kind of gloss over it, but he is actually celebrating that his seat of power is firm, because there's a prophecy that says that the Jews are going to be sent back to Israel. So when he sees that it's not happening, or at least he thinks, he finally says, now I can celebrate. Now I know I'm good. The Jews are in my empire. He brings out some of the spoils from Jerusalem and from the temple. This is a part of the details of his party. So he celebrates this. And in that story, he asks his wife to come and show herself off. She refuses. He kills her based on the advice of some of his advisors. There's a beauty pageant to hire a new queen. Esther is the one that's the new queen. She is Jewish, but doesn't tell anyone because her uncle, Mordecai, says not to. I'm just going through the cliff notes. There's obviously a lot of details. During that time, Mordecai, who knows many languages, he sat on the Jewish high court, listens to a conversation between two guards that are outside the palace. He is always outside the palace because he wants to check on the welfare of his niece. Overhears a conversation of an attempted assassination on the king. He reports it. They find out that it's true. They're taken care of. The story happens that Haman is promoted. He wears an idol on a necklace, so Mordecai will never bow down to him. That bothers him tremendously. He wants to kill the Jews because of that. He comes to Ahasuerus. This is just one of the details I'm going to share about in a minute. And he says, there is a nation amongst us that is different than all of us. I would like to pay 10,000 talents of silver. It's a huge sum of money to have them killed, that we can destroy them. And what does Ahasuerus say?
What?
Yes, and keep your money. He's a partner in crime. So I'm going to finish the story and then come back to that detail. So what happens? This plan is put into effect one day, which is because Mordecai asks Queen Esther to really intercede on the Jewish behalf. She asks to have a private audience with the king. He says, yes, this is also like something that's not common. And it's to have dinner. At that dinner, he says, what do you want? I'll give you half the kingdom. And she says, I want you to have dinner with me tomorrow night. And Haman is invited in these dinners. He is, a very prestigious person in the palace. That night, or he leaves the feast, he's on a high. Mordecai is outside and doesn't bow down to him. So it burns him. Comes home, he asks his wife what to do. And she gives the advice to create a basically 50 cubic feet, which is about, I think, 250 feet almost, tall gallows, that he should hang Haman on before the date that they were given to kill all the Jews. So he's very excited about this. Middle of the night, he can't contain himself. He comes to the king's palace. And before he asks the king if he can do it, the king asks him. The king is having trouble sleeping that night. They're reading from the royal records book. And they're reading the story of Mordecai saving the king's life. And he hasn't been rewarded. So he asks Haman right when he walks in, he says, tell me, what would you do to someone who you would like to honor, who the king wishes to honor? He thinks it's him. Haman is a narcissist. So he says, of course, it's me, right, in his mind. So he says, put him on the king's horse, the king's crown, march him through the streets saying this is what should be done to someone who the king wishes to honor. So King Ahasuerus says, great idea. Do that to Mordecai. So he is raging mad. He parades him through the streets, and now he has to run back to the party, the second party. Comes to the second party, and that's when Esther says, there's somebody who's trying to kill me and my people. points to Haman. And this is the end of the story. Ahasuerus kills Haman. He's hung on the gallows that was created for Mordecai. Now the problem is that how do you rescind a decree? In the Persian Empire, you don't rescind decrees. So if the king made a decree, it's in effect forever. So what they do is they create another decree. Now the prime minister is Mordecai, he's promoted. And he basically says that the Jews can fight back. So the Jews fight back on the 13th day of the month of Adar, which is next week, I guess, Wednesday. And they win, right? They defeat the enemy. So we celebrate Purim the following day, the 14th. Now the capital city, which was Shushan, they asked for another day to fight back. They've been able to take care of their enemies, but they didn't finish. So they asked for one more day. So in Shushan, they rest on Friday. So because of that, in the world, there are 2 days that Purim is celebrated. The entire world, other than Jerusalem, celebrates Purim on Thursday, the 17th not of Adar, but of March this year. In Israel, in Jerusalem, they celebrate it on the 18th. So you actually, in Israel, it's a very interesting thing. If you're in Jerusalem, you can celebrate Purim twice. You can go outside of Jerusalem, celebrate on Thursday, and then celebrate it again on Friday. Now,
That's
only in Jerusalem. So the idea behind that is any city that was a walled city from the times of the story of Purim, which is only Jerusalem today, celebrates it on Friday, on the Shushan Purim day. So that's the short story. Because of that, it becomes a holiday. And every year we celebrate this holiday. It has 4 mitzvot of the day. There are 4 actionable items. Number 1, a festive meal. You got to rejoice, thank God. I just want to point out that this was the only time in Jewish history that all Jews were under one dominion, under one ruler. And that means that when there's a decree against one destroying the Jews, it meant every single person. So unlike throughout history where you have different times that Jews have been persecuted, it's kind of remains in a specific locale. This was all Jews. So it's a bigger story if you think about it. But anyway, so we have festive meal, listening to the story of the Megillah. We do that on the evening and by daytime. We have gifts of food to friends, 2 food items to friends.
Why, my question was, why two food items?
And not one
And
food
show us
item.
one, yeah.
I'll get to that in a minute. And then gift to the poor. So the idea is to create unity. So I think that the idea of 2 food items is really just about significance. So it's like, this is a meal. So you can, obviously we can do snacks, but the idea was about the significance to show that this is a curing package. So I didn't just give you my gum. I gave you my apple and something else, you know what I mean? But that's a good question. I can research it just a bit more, but it's 2 food items that are ready to be eaten.
Right.
So it can't be like I give you a raw egg and because the idea was to promote unity, right? This story of Purim brought all the Jews back together. And think about it, it kind of, I mean, just to use recent events, 9/11 brought all the fractions of the United States into one united country. Ukraine, we see that that's going on the same thing. It's just uniting their country. So kind of a common enemy brings people together. So this idea of the unity and community was something that was important to make sure it continues each year. So now coming back to the details, which I want to share about the anti-Semitism, Mordecai was persecuted. All the Jews are persecuted, and we always blame Haman. We always say, when you read the Megillah, make noise when you hear Haman's name. Why aren't we booing Ahasuerus the king?
Because he changed, because he saw the light and changed. He changed his ways.
But he was an anti-Semite in the beginning, right?
Yes and no.
His advisors and did whatever was around him. He was a
So,
politician.
well, I thought you were going to say he was a fool. Because,
Well,
the rhetoric,
you know,
Well, I meant not a fool. I mean like not smart. When you look at like the commentaries, Achashverosh, it says, was a stable boy who fell in love with Vashti and becomes king. So, it's kind of like a princess charming story. I don't know. It's good for Disneyland. But the idea is I am going to go back to what Ethel is sharing, is that he really was somebody who hated the Jews equally, not because he knew why. Right? So in life, we find these two types of characters. We do find the people who have hate and cannot be changed. They just have an intrinsic hate. It's internal. It's not you can't educate them on it. And then you have the Achashveroshes who, yes, they have hate, but they can be educated. So the question, though, of course, is it our job to educate them? That's another conversation. But the idea is there are different types of people who hate. I know we're talking about hatred against Jews, but think about this with any bias, racist. You find different types of people. Some people, it's just because their parents told them, they don't know why. And if they start learning and studying and thinking for themselves, they might change that. And others, there's nothing to talk about. So the Talmud actually brings this out by using a parable, which I always like. It says there are two people who own fields. One of them has a ditch. So it's an empty hole in his land and it bothers him, right? This ditch bothers him. The other one has a pile of dirt, an extra pile of dirt in his land. And also it's bothering him. They meet and the guy says, oh, you have a hole. I have dirt. Let me give you my dirt and fill your hole. So this is two types of people with hatred. One of them has hatred that's a ditch. One of them has a pile of dirt. So the one who has a ditch, it's empty. There's an emptiness. Every time they see someone who has more meaning than them or more purpose in life, it creates that hole. And it shows them that there's a gaping hole within their own life. That person was Haman. Every time he saw Mordecai, said, well, this guy bothers me because it made him feel that vacuum, that emptiness of his own life. Then you have the Achashveroshes, the ones with the pile of dirt. If you explain to them that the dirt can be useful for something else, they can be re-educated. So in this sense, Achashverosh started off with a ignorance about Jews, but then he was educated. And so his hatred was removed. But again, they both come with a hatred. So again, it's just a parable of sorts. But the idea being that they both did hate the Jews in the beginning. Achashverosh was just more going with the flow hatred. So he said, yeah, you could do it. I don't even need your money. I don't like them either. But when he is re-educated or educated to the first time, not really re-educated, then he sees the purpose. And I think that that's the same thing in life. For those of us who might have a bias or don't realize we have a bias, it's usually because we never really thought too much into it. That's the normal thing. And then it's like, oh, I don't even know why I hate that person or why I have that feeling. And when you think about it, you can fix your own bias. For those of you who are familiar, this is like a new agey, it's a new style. I see this education, it's called implicit bias. What's implicit bias? We all are created through, I shouldn't say created, we all are educated through many forms of education. And some of them are clear text and whatever else, and others are just the way we were raised. So we have these biases without realizing that we have the bias. So if someone shows it to you, that's an automatic, easy correction. Right? Once you know about it, you can avoid the issue that comes from it. So I'm just giving you an example that this is why I see it in the news. It's about police departments, that they're trained on implicit biases, and police get offended. It's like, what? I don't have any biases. But if you know about it, you can react differently because of the knowledge of it. So this is not just for race. This is also between genders. This plays out in many different ways. So I do understand that there's always going to be some 5-year-old kid who learned that Jews are bad or whatever it is, whether it's Christ killer or however it plays out. But that person, as they grow up, hopefully will get a proper education and understand that it's not as simple as someone taught it to them, black and white and everything else involved with that. So I think that for the Purim story, there's definitely a relationship to the anti-Semitism. And I think that the truest thing about anti-Semitism is that there's no reason for it. Right? The hatred is there before the reason. That's a very big statement.
I would say that
I see where you're.
you could say there is a reason,
What's the reason?
jealousy. If you look statistics, those little Jews, they're all over the place. Nobel Prizes, scientific development, cure of every disease, and I'm not exaggerating, but I would be jealous of these guys.
So wait, so jealousy that creates hatred?
It doesn't create, the hatred is there, but the jealousy encourages it.
So I wanna flip
Yes,
your,
go ahead.
I want to flip your thought for a second. There's a parable that was shared. There's a rabbi, his name was the Dubner Magid, and he was known for parables. So this is his parable for anti-Semitism. And I think it's really true for many hatreds. He says there's a man walking through the forest, and he sees that on every single tree, there's a target and an arrow in the bullseye. He's like, this is an amazing marksman. He wants to know who it is. Keeps walking in the forest, more trees with arrows, bullseye. And finally in the clearing, he sees this young little kid with a bow and arrow. And he's like, are you the marksman? He says, yeah. He says, tell me, what's your secret? How are you so good? He says, very simple. First, I shoot the arrow, then I paint the target. Right? So it's the reason why this is a perfect example is because look at history. The hatred for Jews was always there. The question was why? Is it because we're capitalists or is it because we're communists? Is it because we're knowledgeable, or over there they say we're ignorant? So the hatred is there first, and then so I think this would be a great example of an implicit bias, right? It's like the bias is there. Why? That's its own conversation, and it's never true, right? Because if it's this and you say, no, that's not true, then it's that, it's something else. So it just changes. So just think of the arrow. It was shot first. Jealousy might kind of exacerbate the issue, but it didn't create the issue. This is how God created the world, sadly for us.
Rabbi, would you then say that we are the scapegoats of the world?
I mean, I don't need to tell you that.
Well, but I mean, this is what they use us for. This is what Hitler used us for. This is what a lot of Jews all over the world are persecuted. For what reason? Are we rich? Are we poor? They take everybody goes. In the Holocaust, it didn't matter who you were. You went to the gas chambers.
Right.
So I don't know. I think that they need somebody to pick on. And it just so happens that they pick on us because we are a small 2% of the world. And it's easier to pick on a smaller percentage than it is to pick on a larger percentage.
So I don't know if that's why. I don't have the why. I can tell you the what. But I will tell you that the hatred is there regardless. Like you said, it's not because of we did something or didn't do something. It's going to be there. And the target's on our back, right? The question is why. The Torah says it. It's actually read in the Seder. We read a passage in the Seder that says in every single generation.
You're gonna have a Haman, you're gonna have
That's not an exact quote, but
right. Well, in every generation,
it
someone's
rides
gonna
against
come.
you, it says.
Right. Okay, so here, while the US success is the most substantial, similar success is enjoyed by Jews in most European countries, Canada, Australia, Latin America. While we comprise barely 0.2% of the world's population, 0.2%. We represent 54% of the world chess champions, 27% of the Nobel Physics laureates, and 31% of Nobel laureates in medicine. This is barely a field of endeavor in which Jews are not disproportionately prominent. According to Eisenstadt, Jews in Israel have achieved something no other people in recorded history have accomplished. The return to an ancient homeland after 2 millennia of exile through the creation of a sovereign state. He points out that Israel is a vibrant democracy has grown at a faster pace than almost every other country that gained independence after World War II, and in 2010 joined the OECD. Eisenstadt recognizes that while our numbers are not great, we have achieved far beyond what our numbers should possibly dictate.
I'm just wondering, you always keep that cheat sheet in your pocket?
I keep that. I was looking, I knew I had it.
I have two things that you just reminded me of. First of all, on the scapegoat thing, there's a quote that's always given to Albert Einstein. I don't know if it's true because I've never read it that way. But he said that if his theory proves correct, the Germans are going to say he's German, the Austrians are going to say he's Austrian, the Americans are going to say he's an American. But if his theory proves incorrect, they're all going to say he's a Jew. So, yeah, there's always that. But you remind me of a joke. There's a there's two friends. One of them is reading like the biggest anti-Semitic paper. You know the joke?
Yeah. I know.
And it's like, why do you read that paper? He's like, they hate us. I said, what do you mean? Where else can I read how good the Jews are?
Right.
Right, that we control the markets, we control the TV, we control the government. It's like
Right.
Don't forget the banks.
the banks.
Control the banks.
But anyways, yeah, for me, I don't, I'm not into the chest thumping type of Jewish pride. I mean, obviously that's important for ourselves, but that's not going to help others when you share that. I think that the most important thing is to realize our value. What are you supposed to do for anti-Semitism? Like, in every class that we took, there's something called a b'chein, and therefore, so they hate us, and therefore, what do? Right? Is our job to kind of answer their hate, or is our job to kind of be proud of who we are? Realize we can't control that, but we do know the answer to negative things in our history, and that has always been to go back to the Jewish basics, using the story of Purim. Esther is asked to go to the king and plead for the Jewish people's lives. What does she say?
She does it.
Well, she doesn't do it right away. She tells Mordecai, go and gather all the Jews. They should pray, fast, right? So on our most important, at our basic, I'm going to say foundational answer is to turn back inwards. It's like God is, in the end of the day, we are, if I can use another reference from Talmud, is that we are the lone sheep among the 70 wolves, right? People are out to get you. You're their food. So the only thing that can protect you is a really good shepherd. Who's that shepherd? God. So in our sense, one of the downfalls of the Jewish people, and then later their, I'm going to say, rising in the story of Purim, their downfall was, at least according to commentaries, was that they had thought, we made it. In society, we finally made it. Achashverosh invited us to his table. We were invited to that party. We were invited to that party, and there was kosher food at the party. That's what the commentaries say. So they had food for everyone, meaning even kosher was provided. So they felt like, look, we made it in society. Look where we have come to. But then look what happens. You have a Haman who can change that in an instant. And what do we go back to? We don't initially go back to Achashverosh, which is part of the plan, right? God, the common quote in the Torah is, God will bless you in all that you do. And you can't just pray and hope for a miracle. You got to pray and then action. So yes, they did use their connections afterwards, but their initial thing was prayer, charity, Torah. So that was the most important thing. It's like, be proud of who you are. You were given the greatest heritage that you can, and tap into that.
It also helps to have people in a powerful position.
Yeah, but again, he's saying it wasn't just that. If we only assume that,
But
we have a problem.
we have Moses, who was raised with Pharaoh. It helps to have someone in the position to get to the power.
So again, I think I'm agreeing with you. I think it's like what I say with medical issues. Yes, God heals, but you got to find a really good doctor.
Right.
Right? It's part of it. It's part of it. God should heal you through that great doctor, right? You don't go to the schnook that you found for the cheapest price. You're going to find the best doctor for your situation, that the healing comes through that. So that's why I say in all that you do, you got to make that vessel of sorts for God's blessings. So yes, they do come back to Esther, and she goes into the king, but first, she doesn't even trust that. She's like, let's do the Jewish thing first. let's gather, I think it says 22,000 children were gathered as well, just to pray on behalf of that meeting. 3 days of fasting, right? The fast of Esther that we know about today, which leads up to Purim, is not the same days that they fasted. They actually fasted on Passover. That's when the story plays out. So it's just interesting to know these little important details, right? That our answer to anti-Semitism is not to educate someone else what they're doing wrong, which might help as well. But it's to, first of all, be comfortable in your own skin, be proud of your own heritage. And then you can also go and start a program in public schools that educates on
Prejudice.
on prejudice and understanding other culture, whatever it is, anti-bullying, however you want to teach children. Right? There's a lot of prongs and different ways to go about it, but there has to be a good foundation on that. That's the Jewish answer to that. So yeah,
And if you don't go with it, you do without.
say that again. If you don't,
If you don't go with it, you do without.
right? So you have to tap into that.
First answer.
That helps those that help themselves.
Correct.
You gotta also be active.
You gotta jump into the water to make the water split. That's the,
Now we're getting into Passover.
yeah. Any questions on this? If not, I have one other interesting Purim insight that maybe some will enjoy. Or maybe you have a question on Purim. It doesn't have to be my question.
I think you pretty well covered.
Really? We can celebrate now?
So I give you permission.
You give me permission. We could do Purim next week. One of the questions, I think it came up here last time, was about Esther's marriage to Ahasuerus.
Oh, a non-Jew.
Right, you had asked that, right? Or someone had asked the last time. So I actually, I was just reading up.
Was she married to him?
Yeah, why not? She won the
Oh, he
pageant.
had many wives, right?
We don't see that in the story. It doesn't talk about many wives in the story. So one of the interesting things that I'm actually not answering that question. I'm going a different route on this question. And that is, there is a commentary that says, so Esther and Mordecai were for sure related. That's not even a question. There's a commentary that says they were married. So if that's the case, okay, I'm adding a caveat to this question. If that's the case, how was she able to marry a king? She's married to Mordecai. That's adultery, 101.
He was her uncle.
You can marry your uncle. Meaning in Jewish law. I'm not saying you should marry your uncle, but basically she was an orphan. In the story we know she was an orphan. Her uncle takes care of her. Did he also marry her is the question, which if yes, it adds one more detail in the story of her marrying Ahasuerus.
The answer is her marriage to Ahasuerus is meaningless. You can't marry a non-Jew no matter what you do.
Okay, so you're going on a very big technicality. It says the marriage never it's not a Jewish marriage of law, which would be.
You're talking from a Jewish.
Right. By the way, I happen to have always appreciate something which you're kind of touching on without even going into the answer of this question. In general, in Jewish law, technical details are so important. So what I mean by that is it's not cheating the system, it's working with the system, right? If the law says marriage is A and B, so when it's A and C, that's not marriage according to the law. So it's not adultery. It could be many other things. But I'm telling you that adultery is not about marriage. It's about living with someone, another man. Exactly. So it's not about that technicality. I happen to like your line of thought, but it's not the answer to the question. So I'm talking about simple adultery 101. You're married to someone and you go and have sex with another man. Right. And of course that flips the other way, but I'm using the story of.
Well, where did you get that she was married to Mordecai?
You know, half the stories of, I should say half the details are in the commentaries.
Yeah, well, that's their commentary. That
Well,
doesn't
I
mean-
want to answer it according to this extra detail that I shared. That's why I'm asking.
Well, I don't think she was married to him.
But I'm telling you she was, right? So now knowing that detail, Again, that doesn't mean everyone says she was married. I'm using that commentary. By the way, a side note, God's name is not mentioned in the Megillah once.
Right.
Right, just a
The
side,
only book.
just a side note. Well, but coming back to this technicality, meaning I'm not going into the bigger question of can she marry him or not, because the history dictates that she saved the Jewish people through that. So that's a very simple. There wouldn't be, Jewish law says you don't have to worry when you're saving lives. You can put the book on hold. Although there are 3 exceptions to that rule, and that is, I'm just giving the details so you can have
Okay,
some
what
fun.
are the 3
The
exceptions?
3 exceptions are adultery. One of them is adultery, right? So if someone says commit adultery or I will kill you, it says better to be killed than to commit adultery. If someone says murder
I'm
someone,
not gonna go with that story.
if someone says murder someone or I will kill you, it says better to be killed than to murder. If someone says worship this idol or I will kill you, it says better to be killed. Those are the 3 exceptions. So either way, in this story, there got to take all the details in.
The problem is when she married him, she didn't know she's gonna save the Jews. So the marriage itself, you can't argue, if you
Right.
go in your ambulance, you're permitted to ride.
Right, I see what you're
seven
saying.
Because.
When she won the beauty pageant, she couldn't have known that the Jews were going to be under the threat of death.
Looking back, you can
Right.
argue it, but not.
Right. So I will tell you that, and I'm bringing in another caveat now. In Judaism, and this is in general, rules of life, there's passive and there's active, right? You can, sadly, to use rape as an example, there's an aggressor and there's a recipient of that aggression. So if this story is that Esther is forced, then she's not actively doing anything. Right? The king will kill her if she does. So on the basic Jewish law, she is not transgressing something. She's being forced. She didn't choose to do this. It wasn't like, Esther, I will kill you if you don't go and do this up. She didn't do anything. She's a receiver in this relationship. So there's and this is why I like this. In the Megillah, there is a line when Esther pretty much refuses on the first option. When Mordechai says, go and save the Jewish people, go into the king, there's a refusal of sorts. She's not ready to do this because she can die. Because going into the king's chamber, if he refuses to see her, is death. So she is very concerned. So Mordechai tells her, first of all, how do you know? Maybe this is the reason why you were chosen, right? He reminds her, this is why you became the bride in the first place. And second of all, he says, if your home and yourself will be lost forever. There's a quote that I'm using from the Megillah, the house of your father, I think. And what is that statement? So one of the commentaries says that Esther has this thing in her mind that until now I've been passive. He's approached me. Anytime we had a relationship as a husband and wife, the king came to me. So I've always been passively involved in this, which means I'm absolved of the sin. That's how she looked at it. But he says, this is the situation flipping. I'm coming to him. So maybe I am now kind of going to be damned, if I can use that terminology that isn't really Jewish, but that's her mindset. It's like, now I'm the sinner, now I'm approaching it. So that's when Mordechai says, you're saving all the Jewish people. Your situation is different. So I just share that as the side. There are so many details in the story of Esther that I thought this is always a question I always get asked, but on its most simplistic answer, it's not a question. But when you add these little details of adultery and other, it just makes it a little more interesting. That's why I shared that extra detail. Now, was he actually married to her? According to one commentary, yes. So we can always go back to all. So we have to answer it according to that commentary. But yes.
Is this basically a true story historically?
So, I will,
That's to begin with.
you're asking a rabbi this question, right?
Well, okay, then my next question, Rabbi, is where'd the story come from? Who wrote it down?
Okay, so great question. It says that Mordechai and Esther write down the story. At the end of the Megillah, it says that they documented this. So I'm going to share 2 parts of your question. Number one is that we believe in the Jewish sense, all the stories that you find in the Torah are real, which therefore.
That's not in the Torah.
No, but this is canonized. So I'm saying the canonized Torah, this is part of the canon. Right now, when I say the canon, it sounds very Christian. But I say when the rabbis went and documented what is holy in the Torah and what is not. But there were a lot of scrolls written that are not part of the Torah, part of the Tanakh. Right, this is part of the Tanakh. Yeah,
But this is not.
yeah, it is. So there are 5 Megillot. There are 5 scrolls that were put into the Tanakh. One is the scroll of Lamentations. Huh?
Where'd that come from?
It's in, you know what, when you buy your book, the Tanakh book, which has
Yeah.
the prophets and scriptures besides the 5 books of Moses, you'll have the 5 Megillot in there. One of them is Ruth, one of them is Lamentations, one of them is Esther, Ecclesiastes. What's the 5th? There's a 5th one though. I didn't say the 5th one. I said that. Is Shir Hashirim a Megillah? Tehillim's not. Whatever, there's a 5th one. I
You
can,
put this group together?
not me.
I mean, Rabbi,
Yeah, that's what I say. When it was canonized,
what era?
I would assume that it was when they, what's called the Great Assembly, which is kind of the transition. Is it? I wasn't sure. Okay. So,
Against my time.
no, I think you're correct.
About when?
No, I think you're correct. I was thinking the translation of Proverbs, but it's not. What was that?
About when?
I assume it's like the year 200 or 300. The reason for that is Judaism is in an influx, right? There's the temple, bless you, temple is destroyed, and we're trying to figure out where life is going, right? This is the era of learning about prayer because there's no more sacrifices, so they codify that. So I think it's around that, but I can quickly Google that. What, you know,
That's the group that thought about all this stuff.
correct. What, so why do I say what's holy and what's not? Going back to the scrolls that they were finding with the Dead Sea Scrolls, some of those scrolls are not part of the Tanakh. They are scrolls, which we believe they were written by good people, but they aren't holy scrolls. Right? We treat them differently. So when we look at stories in the Torah, we believe them as true. The modern archaeology and science, they try to figure out how true, is it really true? Like, I don't see any proof in the ground for the Exodus. So then you have Jewish archaeologists who say, no, we need to show that it's true because people are questioning it. And they kind of have to study it differently to kind of come from a different perspective. There's a movie on, I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but it was a documentary. I think it was called The Exodus. It was an entire production to figure out that the Exodus happened because archaeologists say they don't see the amount of footwear of the grounds that would fit the era of the Exodus in the places where it says Jews have traveled, right? So,
Well, that's all the story.
right, that's what I'm saying, the Exodus story.
Well, the Exodus-
Yeah.
The problem with the numbers are.
Correct, right, and I, just to include what you're adding to, the Torah always talks about the amount of people that left Egypt as 600,000. But really, if you read yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you read the real numbers, that's only adult males between the age of 20 and 60. Right, so that means we didn't count anyone up to 20. We didn't count women.
Right.
We didn't count the elderly. So if 600,000 was adult males between the age of 20 and 60, the number that really comes out is around 2.4 million people left Egypt.
And they didn't leave one shard
And that
of
was-
pottery in that desert.
Right, and I want to add something, and there was only one, and that was only 1/5 of the Jews that lived in Egypt, by the way. That's just to add something crazy. Only 1/5 of the Jews
1/5 left.
leave Egypt.
What happened to the others?
They are, it says that they are killed during the plague of darkness.
Ah, oh.
These are, for whatever reasons it is. Some didn't want to leave, some didn't want.
The question, a very simple question, is so many people pass the desert and so many die in the desert.
Right. Where is the proof?
No reminders, no.
Right, that's why Ethel was saying, they didn't leave a shard of pottery. So that's why for many historians, and I'm gonna say really the archaeologists, they say this couldn't have happened. There isn't proof to it. So as a Jew, how do you take that? Like this makes it more difficult, especially when science is so important to you. Right, so there's always gonna be the guy who believes everything. There's gonna be the person who believes nothing. Right, so they don't believe in God, they believe in God. So the one who doesn't believe in God, that's not okay, so they don't believe the story, that makes sense. The one who believes in God, blind faith, they're gonna believe the story, that makes sense to them. But what about the blend in the middle? So those are people who say, I would like a proof, right? I want this to prove that. I want it to work hand in hand. And that becomes a big struggle for people. So some people say the stories are meant to teach lessons, right? You have different reactions. But if Judaism says it happened, and you really believe in the veracity of the Torah, you have a struggle. And by the way, this isn't new. This is Maimonides was answering these types of questions in his book, The Guide to the Perplexed, right? He was already living in a time that people were questioning the Jewish text. Like, what that does, why do we need sacrifices? What God needs the scent of an animal or eats meat? The God that doesn't eat meat needs us to sacrifice animals? Right. So these types of questions bothered them. Why does a mikvah purify? I mean, what this water and that water? So why do people need purification to go a step backwards? So for them, Maimonides came out with this Guide to the Perplexed. But there was a premise in the book, and that is that you believe in God. Right? If you read the book and you don't believe in God, his book serves no purpose. So I look at these as good. These are the tensions of faith. Right? They pull, and someone who is on shaky grounds will have more of an issue with the lack of answers. And others say, listen, I found answers to this, to this, to this, and to this. This one, I don't know an answer yet, but it's not going to rock my faith. These are the reactions that I think we all see from friends or from ourselves. And that's not a problem. That's that's the one uniqueness in Judaism, that you can be a believer and not understand and not believe in certain things. In the sense of, this is the tension of the parallels within our teachings that you should question. It's important to question, as long as you're truly looking for the answer, right? Not to question it, like I always share here, as the wicked son of the Haggadah, which is he doesn't want to be at the Seder, so he asks the question. He was never looking for an answer. So our job is to ask questions, to better understand even the things that we already take for granted that we understand, them, to question them even further. Because that makes our religious belief not just be based on the heart, but it encompasses our mind as well, which is part of serving God. So this is important to ask questions, but sometimes we don't get the answers. Or like the classic line, God answered you, he just said no, right? That's the, so I always, this is the idea. It is important to question, which is why in the Megillah story, your question is a great question, right? Is there a proof to it? Is it just in a history book? Do we trust that historian? That's not a problem. That question shouldn't hurt people of faith. It should make them want to study as well. I can give you, the classic, when you start studying these types of questions, the first question that always comes up is, let's go back to creation. Is this world only 5,782 years old, like the Torah says? Or is it older? And you start saying, well, science says it's millions of years old. Well, which one is it? Right. So our questions begin before we worry about Purim. But I do think that even within stories that we believe are true, there is also something to be learned from the story. For somebody who struggles with, is it true or not? They can still take something from the Purim story. And I will end off on this note. There is a Jewish law that says someone who reads the Megillah backwards has not fulfilled the mitzvah of listening to the Megillah. This is a classic teaching. What does it mean backwards? So on its most simplistic teaching, there are 10 chapters in the Megillah. It means reading chapter 10, then 9, then 8, then 7, all the way to number 1. Right? That is its most simplistic. Then you haven't fulfilled the mitzvah of reading the Megillah. You got to read it in order as the story plays out. But there is another deeper teaching that is always taught about that law. And the teaching is that somebody who reads the Megillah backwards, if somebody reads the Megillah as if it's a story that only happened years ago, but it's not relevant to today, that there isn't a lesson for us to learn from that story, then they haven't fulfilled the mitzvah. In other words, they're missing the point. So there's two parts to the story. There's a history story, but it has to have a lesson in our life today. What that lesson is, each one of us is going to take something else. Whether it's kind of like an insight into anti-Semitism, is it going to be an insight into another aspect of our life, maybe learning some languages so you can catch two people talking a different language to save the king's life. I'm just throwing out some at its most, I'm joking about that one, by the way. But again, the idea is that we read the story, realizing this is a living story. This is that when I have an issue, I have to tap into my Jewish foundation like Esther did before she went to the king. Each one of us will take a different lesson from that story, but it is a living story. And that's the important part of the Megillah. So don't look at it as some story of then, and then I have to know, is it true or not? But we also have to look at it like that. It's just an added point to it. I think that's an important extra detail.
Why is it adultery if a woman